I know we all know from a productivity standpoint why we should create a to-do list either the night before our day or at the beginning of our day or whenever, the beginning of our week. I want to speak to the stress management aspect of creating our to-do list. So why it helps us manage our stress levels by creating a to-do list or working from a to-do list, especially when we feel like there is a lot going on or we're feeling overwhelmed because it feels like there's heaps that we have to get done or heaps that we have to keep thinking about or considering or working on. So reason number one is that it removes the need for your brain to spend the energy trying to remember it by writing it all down. So it gives that part of your brain that is spending time going, oh, I must remember this and I must remember that, which is your useful mental energy that could be put more usefully towards actually getting it done or working on it or thinking about the intricacies of it. By writing it down in a to-do list, especially breaking bigger projects down into the smaller steps, it allows your brain to let go of the energy of, oh, I still need to remember this, and actually just focus on it. So there's less overwhelm, there's less mental overwhelm on the brain, which also creates less, sometimes I feel like less emotional overwhelm because it doesn't all feel so big, or we're not trying to just manage all of that and then get it done as well. So that's a big difference. Number two is it gives us perspective. So even when the volume feels large, so when there feels like there's many things on the list, writing it all down can give us a perspective of understanding that some of those things aren't always these long, arduous, time-consuming things. Sometimes those things will take literally 5 minutes to do, but it's just the fact that it's another item on the list mentally that makes it feel bigger and makes it feel like you have so much to do, just because you're constantly running through the number of things on the list rather than the actual time or energy required. So I wrote my list for the week just before I did this, which is what gave me the idea for it, and realizing that some of the things that I was thinking about this morning of going, okay, I have to make sure I put that on the list and that and that and that. Once I wrote it all down, I was able to just notice the things that are actually going to take me only 5 minutes to do before I can then cross it off. So that perspective really helps in terms of managing the stress of overwhelm, because it changes our perspective. Instead of it being this big mountain list of tasks to complete that's overcoming us, we actually get to go, oh, that's a little easier or a little simpler than I thought. Even though there's still quite a few things on there, I can just actually get that one done in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So that perspective makes a big difference in the level of stress hormones that are released when our body feels that pressure. Because it releases the pressure a little. And number three is the feeling of accomplishment. So again, beyond just the productivity, it's the actual feeling of accomplishment, whether you're chipping away at it and spending a little bit of time on everything on your list in one day, or chunking it up and doing to a completion point. And there is a difference between the two. Sometimes I prefer actually to work on things in chunks so that I can complete them while I'm on them. But realistically, sometimes that just doesn't work and it just isn't possible. So today, for example, is a day where I'm actually working on everything for a little bit of time. So whether it is just chipping away at it or chunking it out, you'll still get the feeling of getting things done because you can track it. So remember that what we can track, we can know. So because you can track it, because you've written it down and then you're crossing these things off, especially the little things that get done real quick, we get to have that feeling of accomplishment rather than it being lost in our head, where we get it done and then we push it aside mentally, which is great, but at the same time, we also push aside that feeling of accomplishment because we're trying to put it out of our head so much because we're getting on to the next thing. So, it's those three things really that make it really important from a stress management perspective or really helpful from a stress management perspective to just write everything down on a list. Conserving your energy, giving you perspective, and letting you actually feel accomplishment as you get through it, rather than feeling like you're working and working away, but not actually getting anything done, especially when you are chipping away at things without that point of completion yet. If they're not ready for it, you still get that feeling of accomplishment, which is really, really important for your energy and your drive to keep moving forward and getting it done, rather than wanting to just hide underneath a blanket because it's all so big and so overwhelming. So I hope that helps explain this very old and well-known concept of making to-do lists. I hope that helps explain why, from a stress management perspective, it is really helpful, and see it as an act of taking care of you. It's not another chore that you have to do to create your list, and that list can change and alter as the week goes on. It's meant to be fluid, but it's an act of taking care of you and reducing the level of overwhelm that you might be susceptible to, depending on what you've got on to get done as well.